Thanks for checking out the Locked On NFL podcast on YouTube. Subscribe for great content all leading you up to the NFL draft, but continuing to kind of hold the NFL headlines hostage. Back-to-back MVP Aaron Rodgers back in the news, according to Diana Rossini, ESPN. Aaron Rodgers informing the Packers of his decision soon. There are multiple teams with offers on the table, according to Rossini. Nothing can happen until the Packers allow a trade. A little interesting. We're going to bring on Peter Bukowski, Locked On Packers, of course, Locked On Today. Follow him on Twitter at Peter_Bukowski. And Peter, it just kind of seems to me, just following the tea leaves, that Aaron Rodgers is kind of moving towards finishing his career as a Green Bay Packer.
It does seem that way. I'm not a big tea drinker, but I have to say, in this business, you have to be a big tea leaf reader. And I came to the same conclusion you did. And I know that what's interesting, right, is that you have Aaron Rodgers, who goes on Pat McAfee's show on Tuesday and says no decision, but then speaks glowingly about the organization. A couple days later, this report comes out, as you mentioned, Diana Rossini from ESPN, and Rodgers texts Pat McAfee that it is categorically false, or at least that's the word that Pat McAfee uses in terms of what Rodgers is describing here. And maybe that's a reference to wanting to be the highest paid player in the league. But here's what this comes down to, Bo. The Packers have to do an extension with Aaron Rodgers. They just have to. He's not going to play on a cap number or over $40 million for the Green Bay Packers in 2022. It was never going to happen when they renegotiated the deal last August or July. That was the assumption, is it's trade or it's extension. Those are the only two options. Well, the Packers are going to give him a top of market extension. That's just how this works. That's how the NFLPA, by the way, wants it to work. And so, yeah, he's going to get 45, 46, $47 million. The question is, could he take less? Would he take less? And who is driving that part of it? Is it Rodgers or is it not? And I think for the Packers purposes, it's also, can he sign that extension? Can he do that deal and still leave them room to do the other things that they need to do? That is the question that faces Green Bay right now.
Yeah, and I thought you made an excellent point on your Twitter account that they brought back Tom Clements, longtime quarterbacks coach there. He was in Arizona for a cup of coffee a season ago, and then he's been kind of just in retirement. I can't imagine, to your point, like he's not going to come out of retirement to coach Jordan Love.
You wouldn't think, although he came out of retirement to coach Kyler Murray, which is an interesting wrinkle in all of this. And he did not have any previous relationship, I don't think, with Cliff Kingsbury that I knew of anyway. But what's interesting is if you look actually over the last decade and a half of his career, he was hired to coaches that didn't necessarily have a connection to him, but they were all first-time head coaches. Matt LaFleur, not a first-time head coach. You have to imagine that this was done with the sign-off, at the very least, of Aaron Rodgers. Actually, you don't have to imagine that, Bo. Brian Gutekunst said as much. The Packers GM, speaking to media last week, said he was asked, was this done essentially to woo Aaron Rodgers? And he said, no, this was done in communication with Aaron Rodgers, that this was part of Rodgers being made a part of decisions that affect his job. That was what we heard from him in that famous press conference last July when he reports to training camp. He said, I wanted to be part of decisions that affect my job. And so that's what this was. By the way, it only affects his job if it's his job. And the only way it's his job is if he's the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers in 2022.
NFL agent Burkhardt, Kyler Murray's agent, kind of spoke out on Twitter saying that Aaron Rodgers deserves $50 million per season. You talked about what that extension may look like. Absolutely, if there's a quarterback that's going to make $500 million, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. But, for Green Bay to go where they want to go, obviously fell short in the postseason after winning the NFC. They need that cap number a lot smaller. What's a realistic number for Aaron Rodgers going forward?
Well, I can't imagine why Kyler Murray's agent would want a superstar quarterback to get the most amount of money. I just can't imagine why that would be the case. But I think so. What I have been saying is, why don't they do 2 years, 100, but add 3 years void years and do something like 80 million in guaranteed money in signing bonus, which allows you to spread that money out. And then he could count something like 25, 28, maybe 30 on the cap in 2022. He counted in the upper 20s and in 2021 on the cap. He can't count 40 plus. It's just too much. And certainly can't if they want to franchise tag Devontae Adams. But I think what ends up happening is he gets a 2-year deal that's really a 5-year deal with void years, much like Dak Prescott. He got a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal that was really like a 6 or 7-year deal with void years to spread out that money. And then you make it easier to get Devontae Adams back, to keep Devondre Campbell, and bring back the core of this roster that was the number 1 seed back to back the last 2 seasons in the NFC.
$100 million can buy a lot of disgusting juice cleanses like old Aaron Rodgers is on. Or it's not a juice cleanse. It's a 12-day cleanse where laxatives are in play each and every evening. I think whichever team gets Aaron Rodgers, that GM has to do the cleanse as well. What do you think?
Well, how about it sounds like if that's going to happen, if it's not going to be the Packers, I think Brian Gutekunst is going to feel like he had to do the cleanse because he's going to have to deal with whatever they get from not Aaron Rodgers after that. And guess what? It's not going to be as good as Aaron Rodgers would be.
No, it's not going to be Central listening all offseason long, especially as Rodgers nears his decision, which apparently is coming soon. Peter Bukowski, and of course, Locked On Today. Thanks, Peter.
Anytime.